So there's the appending part. Can't see it? Yeah, neither can I. You don't want to do this job. So step one, reconsider your life choices. Do you really want to do this? Or do you want to pay someone to do it? If you're going to do it, then watch the video. And the guy had a different car than mine, but it was a similar, newer engine, and the layout was a little bit different. He could get his hands in there. I can't get my hands in there, really. But I think I see a method of attack here, which really sucks, because if you want to do the other O2 sensor, it's right here. So it's just like the spark plugs. You know, the spark plugs are like right here for the front, and the back you have to take half the engine apart. So I'm hoping to do this without taking the engine apart. Although I recently took most of the engine apart, and I really, really wish I had taken care of the O2 sensor while I was there. You live and you learn. Anyway, this guy had a good suggestion on his channel. I will link it in the description. He said you should check before just willy-nilly replacing the O2 sensor, even though that's what the code is. I need two hands to do this. Check in here for the fuse, and there's a fuse and a relay on the heater circuit for the O2 sensor, and make sure it isn't those first, because that's going to be a whole lot easier to get to. So that's I guess step zero is to put on some. Step zero is to reconsider your life choices. Step one is to put on some music. Step two is to go in here and do that. Okay, so now that I've got it off, you can see right here it says 25 amp AF heater and air fuel, so that's their term for O2 essentially. And then there's a heater, a relay, basically right next to it. So that's right here and right here. And in case you didn't know, Toyota includes a little tool here in the middle that helps you get those things out. A lot of times that tool's missing. There you go. Now you can just, I'm just visually inspecting it here. The best way to do this is with a digital multimeter, but it looks to me to be good. I will grab my multimeter just to be on the safe side. Now what he did, he said that that light comes on rather immediately. So he pulled like one relay out and swapped it with another one and checked to see if the light came back on again after he started it. I don't want to do that, so I'm actually just going to check the relay out of the car. Interestingly, his was one of these. Mine looks like it's this one. It's the very first one next to the heater. So it's this guy here, actually, which is usually really hard to remove. And you have to be careful. Sometimes on the bottom they actually have a little clip, kind of like this guy, holding him in. In fact, this one here, this purple one, I think has that. In fact, you can see down there. You have to put something down in there and pry it out to pull this guy out. I don't think that this one's that way because there's no access to it. Well, maybe there is. I'm looking down there. See the white down there? Oh. And I'll let you know when I get it out. Yeah, this turned out to be one of those kind. It's too dark. I can't even see it with my eyes. I doubt the camera's going to pick it up, but down the side of this thing, if you go down there, I'm hitting it. There's a little, I don't know, a little tab that sticks out, and it catches right in there. So you have to pry these. Oh, lovely. You have to pry those out away, just enough to pull it out. Once they're not there anymore, like that one's never going to be there, then you can start wiggling this thing out. But otherwise, you're just going to be trying all day long, and it's just going to be catching on these guys. So why they do that, I'm not sure. I mean, it's so, like, I don't care about this tab breaking off right now because the friction is so ridiculously high on all 5 of these things. It's not coming out. I don't know why they do that. Anyway, so once you get that out, then you can check the relay, and I can show you that now. Alright, to check these out, you usually have 4 terminals. Can't remember what the 5th one's for in this case, but I measured across here. So it's either going to be this way, this way, this way, or this way. It's a square, right? So I measured across here and I got open circuit, but when I measured across here, I got a really low value, and I figured that's the coil. So I put, all you can do is just go one way or the other. If it's open and you put it the wrong way, it's just going to open more. I don't think it's really going to hurt anything, especially since you're not going to leave it very long. I got lucky the first try, and if you listen carefully, you can hear and I can feel the relay clicking, which is going to short those two out. So this relay works, which sucks because relay would have been a lot easier to repair than an O2 sensor. But I thought it was a good idea to do my due diligence and check these things out like that guy suggested, just in case you don't want to do all that work and then find out, oh, it was just a relay. Replacing the O2 sensor isn't the big deal here. Obviously, it's pretty easy. You unconnect it at the end there where the connector is, and then you just unscrew it, assuming it comes out. It is exhaust after all, and bolts can have a tendency to rust themselves in. You can actually see this is fairly new. So, in principle, that's not the hard part. The hard part is getting to it, and I will try and get the camera in there and show you how to do that just as soon as I figure it out. I know when people are under cars and they're showing you views of the video, they think they are doing, that you know what you're looking at, but I know that from this angle you probably can't tell what the front of the car is and not. So that is the front of the car in that direction, in line with this here. And directly up in there, that's the O2 sensor. It's sort of at a junction of this exhaust pipe that comes up in this, I believe that's an EGR, hose or whatever tube here, and it's kind of behind that, which makes it really difficult. And I will angle, nope, can't see it from here, hang on. Okay, so now that's my finger's pointing toward the front of the car, and right here is actually part of the car, the actual body, unibody. And if you look at this tube here and go just up and to the left of it, I should have brought a pointer with me, but I'm under the car now. I'm going to try and angle the camera, but my finger's pointing right at it there. You can see some red. It's to the left of the red. It's in between this tube and this red. It's right there, if I'm looking at that correctly. That is the connector, and so it's hard. You need to get up there because the connector has, as usual, like a little tab you squeeze, and then you have to pull, and there's usually a lot of friction there that makes it difficult to get it out. And so I can get one hand up there and I can get it on the tab and I can get it on the connector, but I lack the power in one hand to disconnect it. And now I'm going to angle it this way, and I really have a hard time seeing this because it's really close to my face, but my finger here, I'll come here, right there you can see where my finger is, I hope. Those are the wires, and they kind of twisted up. This may be why it's not functioning. I'm not sure how that happens, because when you take it off, you twist them up, but you don't care because you're getting rid of it. When you put it on, you twist them, but then you untwist them before you make the connection at the top. So maybe you made a mistake putting that in, I'm not sure, or whoever did it. So you could cut these if you'd like to take it out. As long as you're certain you don't need it. And at this point, I'm pretty sure it isn't working, so it doesn't matter, right? That'll make it easier to get out. But the wires make it difficult to disconnect. If you can get like a wrench on the side and undo it, then it wouldn't really matter either. But what I have is a socket that has a slit in the side that allows the wires to come out. And I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm hoping I'll be able to get it just above this, in from this angle with a some kind of a ratchet extension or something. So I hope, because otherwise there's just so much stuff here I can't get my hands in. And from the top you can see there's a fairly straight shot. See daylight up there? Unfortunately, it's so far, I mean, it's right here. It's only maybe 6 inches, which is, I don't know, 18 centimeters or something, 15 centimeters from the bottom of the car where my thumb is to the O2 sensor. And it's like 2.5 feet up that way. And my arm isn't that long, you know, to really get in there. So I think I have to do it from down here, and I'll let you know. Okay, you can see hopefully up in there, if it's focusing, the white part of the connector, the center connector. So the tab is up there, and I put a long screwdriver in from the left. I'll hopefully put arrows on the video. I put a pressure on it with a long screwdriver on the tab that locks it, and then I grabbed it with those needle nose and I pulled, and fortunately it came right out, and there it is. Now the hard part, getting the O2 sensor out. I hope plan A works. This is the specialty socket that's used to remove an O2 sensor. They're available at pretty much any parts store. You can see it's got a long slit in the side to allow the wire to come out the side and allow you to remove it, but there are issues with this. One, it seems very long, but as it turns out, a lot of times the O2 sensor comes up to about the end of my thumb there, and there's not a lot of room for it to come out, so it needs this length. That makes it weak, and when it's weak, sometimes when you get on there and you turn, this this gap opens, and then you don't have a tight connection between the socket and the O2 sensor, and it rotates. And so if it's really in there hard, you may not be able to get it with one of these. It's as you can see, it's a 7/8. Now when you're taking it out and you don't intend to use it again, you could cut those wires, like I said, in which case pretty much any 7/8 socket will, deep well anyway, will do, and that might fix your problem. I like this because, hey, at least it's made for it, and it seems to kind of work, especially putting it back in, leaves a place for the wire. But theoretically, the procedure calls for winding the wire in the opposite direction. I think they said 3.5 turns, either 2.5 turns or 3.5 turns. You could look at the threads on the actual part to determine that, so that it's kind of wound up. In that way, when you're putting it on, you're actually unwinding it, and then it'll be nice and straight. But if you don't plug it in, it seems to me like it shouldn't be an issue, right? You put it on, and then you can unwind it any way you want, and then you snap it in. Okay, I got it, and fortunately it wasn't too hard, and I'm going to show you right now. I hope you can see this. Oh, I've got a pointer this time. I brought a screwdriver with me. Let me see. Okay, so the front of the car is in that direction, and that is the socket. I've got the end of the screwdriver on it. I can't see the screen this close to my face, so I'm going to move it around, hope that you can see it at some point. But that's the socket, and the ratchet comes on the other side over here. You can see the handle here sticking down, and I was able to get it up there so the front of the car is that way now, and I was able to loosen it. So the reason I was able to loosen it is because what I found is that if you torque with a torque wrench enough items on, sorry, I'm gonna try and show you my ugly face here because I've been pretty sweaty. So if you torque enough things onto a car with a torque wrench, you'll find pretty quickly, over time anyway, that people tighten things way too tight. So when I go to tighten something on that I can't get a torque wrench on, I usually go snug and then just a little bit more, and that's usually all they need. If it's really important, like a head bolt, or you're putting your wheel on the car or something, it needs to be torqued on, so you got to do that really. But things like this, where it's not super critical, in fact, if you torque this on, if you put too much torque on this, it's exhaust, right? There's a lot of heat there, and you could crack something, so it's actually better not to. And hopefully they give you in the box, we'll find out. If not, I have some anti-seize compound to keep it from seizing up in there. And there's a special one for O2 sensors. It's like a coppery looking color versus the silver stuff that I have. Usually I think it's in the box. So if you use that, and be careful only to get it on the threads and nowhere on the sensor itself, that'll mess it up. Just on the threads, then hopefully it'll come out as easily as that one did. I put some pressure. I have a fairly long ratchet on there, and I put some pressure, and it just came, which was really great. So now I'll just pull it out and try and reverse the process. I don't know if that's going to be easy. There's the fending part, and I'm guessing it's these wires here that probably got messed up. I mean, I don't have a record as to when I last put this in. I also don't see any of the anti-seize. I don't know, maybe I didn't put this in, I'm not sure. But honestly, I'm the only one who's been repairing this car for at least a decade, so it had to have been me. I don't think it doesn't look original. It's wire colors are too new looking, but hey, they do look a little messed up here, and I'm guessing that's the problem. The heater wire probably is the one that's messed up, because that's what the code is. But as always, when you replace a part, make sure you compare the new part to the old part to make sure it's the same. I'm going to need 2 hands for this. Okay, there we go, and these two look pretty much the same. There's the goop I told you about, and I find this interesting. Look at this little warning. It says, attention, inspect contents before opening. Once the package has been opened, it cannot be returned. But it was all bundled up in there, like you couldn't compare the two when it was actually still in the packaging, at least not easily. So yeah, they get you coming and going, don't they? Alright, so I'm going to try and put less stress on these wires putting this in, and I'll put some of this, again, only on the thread section. Don't get any out here. And this stuff's like maple syrup. The minute you open it, it's on your fingers, it's on your shirt, it's on the dog, it's on the door handle, it's everywhere. I mean, seriously, I can paint the neighborhood with this thing, but just by opening it. So, yeah, just be aware of that. There's not much you can do. It's just the nature of the product. But it looks otherwise correct here. And one thing I didn't mention in getting it out was, I'll take you under the car again. This is the CV axle, and that's the front of the car. I was able to get my arm up this hole and then that direction and reach up all around all this stuff here to get aid my other arm in getting it out. So that's kind of how you would do it on a 99 Solara. Alright, so it's done. By threading it in, I was able to get my hand on it by threading in by hand, and that's really super important. Try your best if you can to thread it in by hand, and if you have the same car, then you should be able to get your hand up around that CV joint. Like I said, I could reach all the way in and touch it, and turn it, in fact, and I was able to turn it, and you should feel it going in nice and smoothly, because the threads are really rough. So they're only, like I said, maybe 3.5 threads there. So when it turns and it stops, then you're cross-threaded. Just back it out and keep turning it until it goes in smoothly all the way down. You should be able to tighten it all the way down, and then just put your wrench on it on the end. And if you do that and then plug in the wires, they won't be all kinked up like mine were. I don't know why mine were like that, to be honest, because once I did it that way, I plugged it in afterward, it was nice and straight. But I noticed that my wire kind of came around and wanted to rest on the exhaust. So I took a zip tie in there and I put it around there and secured it to a hose nearby to keep it away from that. So that would be it. The last thing to do now is for me to turn off the check engine light. If you don't have a tool to do that with, there's an OBD2 reader under the front. I'm assuming you guys know this kind of thing. You can go to Pet Boys or some parts store, and they'll usually do that for you for free. And then drive it for a while and see if the light comes back on. That's what I intend to do. I'm going to drive this right now.